There are some overrated cars in the world when you're just looking at the price, okay? When you look at it, cars that are like, they're pretty sick, but they aren't $120,000 sick. But we're no longer talking about a bro tax, we're talking about like a capital gains tax. We're talking like lunch money bully that makes fun of your cardigan while you're already on the ground sort of tax. But sometimes the bro tax is well warranted, question mark. Cars that likely need a little pick me up, otherwise they're gonna end up like, you know, Mater from Cars. I'm Alex Edify on Instagram, and today we're gonna be talking about one of those cars that is as controversial as it gets when it comes to the infamous bro tax that's hitting a bunch of cars right now. If they're worth it, and of course, what will happen once it makes it across the waterways and into the USA. Okay, a car that truly pushed the drifting community to the next level. A car that had a banging platform that further concreted the Nissan name as a proper sports car company. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're gonna be talking about you wanting to own a Nissan S15 Silvia 240 SX and any other nickname you want to give it. We started the storyline 3.5 years ago with less facial hair, more awkwardness, and because figuring out what wheels and tires that fit your car was an absolute mess. So we made a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, still remember that word, gallery where you can enter in your year, make, model, and find what fits based on what other vehicles and what other people have done, including rubbing, camber deets, and tire sizes, and it's pretty slick. So if you're looking to see what fits your vehicle, be sure to check us out over at fitmentindustries.com. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.
And if you're looking for real tires and suspension, don't forget to check us out at fitmentindustries.com.
The Nissan S15 was a new version of the Silvia that was introduced in 1999 and lived for only a few short years. Redesigned with a new ball-bearing turbocharger and engine management system, the new SR20 DET, all right, you guys, we got the SR20 DET. We understand where that comes from. Would come with 3 less horsepower than 250, because why wouldn't you? Had a lot to do with taxes. And 203 foot-pounds of torque. The newly redesigned S15 was noticeably different from its predecessor, specifically in the aesthetic perspective. It did look noticeably different than the previous generations. It had a sleeker front nose, sloped rear ass, and bringing sizing back to the compact segment for its sales in Japan, which actually helped it out quite a bit. The S15 sported a style that remains iconic to this day, all right? And coming with it, a massive list of trim options to either really a Spec S or a Spec R. The S15 was a simplified vehicle for the automotive enthusiasts that have been following the lineup since its conception just a few short decades ago. The car would remain pretty much elusive to the United States and pretty much only being sold in Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. Now, you did have some 240 SX versions come to the United States, but they weren't the fun ones. And even though the car itself would be made over 40,000 times during its short lifespan, the car itself is still relatively limited, hard to find. And those that are getting their hands on this car are charging up the wazoo if you want to buy it. And Nissan built the car with the automotive enthusiast in mind. It was lightweight enough to where you take the seats out, a few bits and pieces here and there, and you're at a sub 2,500 pound rear-wheel drive, manual, tail-happy drift car with an engine platform that can handle a consistent beating. Not only that, but these cars also got a limited slip differential, a 6-speed manual transmission, chassis bracing, anti-roll bars, and reinforced suspension components, which made it really good around corners. Now, pair that with the fact that you also got great weight distribution and a long nose to boot, and by golly, you have yourself a recipe for a fantastic driving platform that just so happens to be able to go sideways relatively easy. So why did Nissan only do it for a few years to avoid the good old US of A with it? And that's a great question, random strangers that didn't actually ask. Nissan was really starting to get diversified into their car lineup, how they were offering those cars around the world, and the price points that these cars had to be sold at to retain a realistic margin without cannibalizing another car in that lineup. They had the introduction of the new Infiniti/G series. They had the Skyline investments that were coming in full force, and the declining interest on the sports car segment overseas as a whole in replacement for
Garbage SUVs.
just like your own potential gift to childhood who believed because their mom told them that they were special, it just ended, and now you're thinking what to do next when you're at Olive Garden with the unlimited breadsticks because you thought you were special, but now you're just 24 years old and you're trying to figure out your life. That's a little too real. We're done talking about the history of the Nissan S15 Silvia. Okay, you want more of that? You need to jump back into one of those other videos where we actually talk about you wanting to own one of these bad boys, the 240 SX specifically. But so you want a Nissan S15? Well, set down your Silvia tea and grab your favorite warped aluminum block because we're here to talk about what it's like to actually own one of these things if you do end up managing to put your filthy little hands on one. The latest, greatest, and deadest Nissan is the one that people like you and people like me truly remember the car likely from the teased days of the early video games and more recently like the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. People saw Mona Lisa. Wait, how does it say it? It's like the Mona Lisa. I thought it was Vin Diesel that said it. It's not Vin Diesel that said that. It was Bow Wow. It's like the Mona Lisa of the drift scene. I don't know what that means. Like, what is that? Is he talking about the S15 as a platform as the Mona Lisa of the drift scene, or is he talking about the car that Han built was the Mona Lisa of the drift scene in the movie for the environment? Either way, the cars were great. The characters, not so much. Tokyo. If you see it, then you mean it, then you know you have to go. Fast and Furious! Eric, stop making so much noise back there, okay? Jesus. You know, we're trying to make Hollywood films up here, okay? You see the lights? But if you manage to win the lottery and you're dead set on buying a Nissan S15, there's a couple 2-3 things that you'll want to know before picking up the platform, because you are going to be spending a good chunk of change to grab one of these cars. One, there's a non-turbo version out there, mostly from Australia, and came with some ugly fugly bumpers, okay? Additionally, there's 2 major trim options that we spoke about before that you can pick from predominantly, the Spec S or the Spec R. The Spec S is the non-turbo. The Spec R is the fun version. The Spec R also is the more expensive version with the additional 4-pot brakes from the 300ZX, bigger brake booster, and enough love around the car to make it a winner for a drift vehicle. So if you do have an option and you do have the money, get the R. The car has turned into an enthusiast halo car. I mean, this is essentially, when you look at people that love JDM cars, people love this car. And there's a chance that you're going to be running into people that think this thing is the best thing in the world and can make 2,000 horsepower or something like that. You could, but it's not really meant for that. You can do it with the S15 platform, but its purpose, okay, lies in the ability to perform and adapt to what you put through it, and especially at those that love going sideways through turns. It's a great platform for purpose-built driving, and a lot of times that includes drifting. These cars are absolutely stunning too. ADM.S15 is running MCA coilovers on 18x9.5 plus 25 SSRs with Michelins for some pretty perfect fitment. Jake_S14 went wide with 18x9.5 plus 6 work Rezacs, and it has beautiful show fitment. They just look good. They sound okay. But their power plant is substantially just great, and it's something that you can jump into and without having to do any foundational changes to the car, have an absolute blast. You can beef up the power just a little bit and not really have to worry about anything going to snuff unless you really throw a ton of power through it, in which case the aluminum heads do have a tendency to warp. They're just going to be really damn expensive, and that's the tough thing. Owning one of these cars is hard enough, mostly because here in the States you just can't yet. But across the salty seas, these cars have already been rising in prices, knowing that the big boys in the red, white, and blue will likely demand a premium to get one when 2024 comes around. The question is how much is it worth? How much can you actually, or should you actually, buy these cars for? Cars like this will always carry a little bit of a legacy tax, a price increase because of the name. I do believe that when these cars do become available, that tax is normal and is accepted, and here's why. It's an SR20 DET with a manual, okay? It's gonna come with some broken high casts. It's gonna come with Nissan paint, and they're gonna probably come in at $25,000 to $30,000, and that's gonna be okay. But if the Spec S's come in at 25 to 30, that'll make the Spec R's 45 to 50, and that's where things just get weird. It's a 25-year-old JDM car with a turbocharged 4-cylinder. How is that worth the same amount as a mid-engine turbocharged all-wheel drive Porsche, or a second-generation Dodge Viper, or a Corvette? What about a first-gen Audi R8? Now, I'm not too sure, and I believe this platform specifically does and should carry a higher premium than most. What do you think? Let us know below, and of course, if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com. I'm Alex from Fitment Industries, and we will see you later. Peace. And if you're 14 years old and you're on TikTok like I am, and you say the S15 is the best car in the world, and you get mad at me for comparing it to Gen 1 R8, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt anybody's feelings.